who says that it will start at zero? What if it might start at parity? I mean, Pulse will obviously start at zero, but is there actually a way that pHEX could really start at the current price of Hex, or whenever that is with the chain
honestly, think about it this way, right? It should, and here's why. Because number one, it's a system state, which means that in the beginning, it's a copy on the other side. And then just like how Uniswap works, it's a path. So if the path from Hex to pHEX back to Ethereum through the Pulse tokens, and the pair between Pulse and Ethereum is steady, then it starts the same, because that's what's going to dictate everything, right? Because if we start and then the Pulse ratio to Ethereum gets fucked up, then the pHEX is going to get fucked up. Make sense? Because it's your route from pHEX to dollar or whatever in the beginning, it's going to go through Pulse, because Pulse is the one giving its value. Make sense? Because Pulse will be connected in the beginning definitely with either Ethereum or some type of USD. Okay? So that's what's going to happen. So, but if we just strictly talking in terms of ratio, it's going to be the same. That's why we make the joke all the time. Shit's going to be sacrificed. Who the fuck's going to dump the price? You got no Hex. You sacrificed it. You know what I mean? Okay, you got your copy, but to get your copy means you didn't sacrifice, right? That's what we're talking about earlier with Accidente. The math between getting your 100% guarantee, which is a copy, which means you don't sacrifice, or you sacrifice the whole thing and hope that in the beginning, the explosion from the jump is going to be greater than the value of a copy would have been if you get it. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the dilemma. But assuming there's going to be at least 1% or 1.5% of circulation is going to get sacrificed. Let's assume that. Well, guess what? That thing is moving out of circulation. You're going to get your Pulse, which is cool. The Pulse to Ethereum, the Pulse to pHEX is going to have its ratio, very similar in the beginning. And then the value is going to be derived from what Pulse versus Ethereum is going to do. That's the key. And guess what? If Pulse versus Ethereum start to explode from the beginning, because everybody else wants to go on Pulse, because I'm talking about all the communities, right? All the sacrificers people, because now they got a bag of Pulse. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to pump the shit out of that Pulse because they need their back to go up. And that will actually drag Hex price up even faster. So then the math becomes Pulse chain explode, ratio makes pHEX explode, which then makes pHEX explode too, because it just follows. It was just like, and then obviously finds an equilibrium. So that's one strategy. Other strategy is in the beginning, people got so many Pulse tokens and they dump the price, right? Because they're like, oh my God, liquidity event, right? And if that happens, then yeah, it's going to affect the Pulse value, which then affects the pHEX value, which then push it down. So as long as you understand how the path to valuation is created, that's what's going to dictate the price. So it's going to be volatile in the beginning, but it's going to find its equilibrium. And if you get yourself a nice copy, who gives a fuck? The simple fact that you're getting double T-share working, oh man. Even if the price goes down 30-40%, you got two. So you went from 100% pump overnight. That's basically what it means mathematically, wherever the price is. Because by the way, we could be at 20, 30 cents before even the snapshot sacrifice, because people forget it happens at the end. So price could just keep going. Then you get a copy, you get another 100% at the last minute. And then yes, maybe we retrace 30, 40, 50%. Who cares? With the doubling, your total wealth went up. No matter how you do it.
When we're thinking about like the starting of a brand new chain, right? It doesn't just start at the same price level as somewhere else. It actually has to travel from 0 to 8 cents. So in order for that to happen, given the fact that it's going to start at 0, whatever the zero number ends up being, right? You have to actually be there and be ready to act on that number. And that's the whole point, right? Like, of course, it's not going to stay there. Don't be foolish. Yeah. But it's going to start there, so be ready. Yeah. And that was the difference in the conversation or the points of view, right?
So like you think it's going to start at 0?
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah, but it's going to do like this. Anybody that has ever seen a listing on the exchange, guys, it's the big ass green candle that you see.
Yeah, it's that first one. It's just like the first day. It's just like when Hex went first day. It's no different.
But and the same thing. But as you retrace, it's not gonna go back to 0. That's what we need to understand. On the first candle, it could literally basically open at whatever the price is or higher, it's just going to create a big bar that's going to say 100,000%, whatever they want. Because that's how Pulse Chain go from inexistence to top 10 crypto overnight.
Yeah,
okay?
I mean, that's
it's
clearly
going to
going to
do the
happen.
zero, but it moves so fast that there's no way you're going to place a fucking order.
Yeah.
The first bid is already going to tell you. The first bid can tell you, hey, 20 cents. That's what you need.
And yeah, but that bid has to be there though, and that's the whole point, right? Like you got to be ready. It's not going to be an automatic. Yeah, it's 8 cents. No, that's not the way markets work. This shit has to travel there, and that was my point. So
but the candle will be created. The minute candle,
it has to happen. That's the whole point. Yeah,
it's going to be a massive green, and then start to retrace to go find valuation until whatever the next bid support is. But my point is this. My point is, and I'm going to run it because somebody asked again, so I'm going to run it back again. So because I know that was a lot. My point is just people understand that the ratio in the beginning, if we're talking just hex to hex, because of the system state and because of sacrifice, that's going to be almost identical to Ethereum because that's just math. You cannot push the price of hex down if you don't have any fucking hex. Period. Full stop. End of story. Now, the valuation is going to be derived from Pulse, which then Pulse derive his valuation from Ethereum. So all we need to watch is what that pair is doing. There's a reason why when we were at 40,000 Grays way back last year during that first big ass pump when I helped make the top, back then it was still about 6,000 of a penny. Today, that same thing is telling you it's fucking 8-9 cents. Why is that? Because Ethereum used to be in the $300 back then, and now it's fucking $2,000. That's what it means. So the pair that we need to track is going to be what the Ethereum versus Pulse chain pair does. That's the one that's the key. If you're worried about your pHEX valuation, let me second derivative. You got to worry about what the Ethereum versus Pulse pair does. And which is why you might see insane number. Because if that pair starts to pump, rightfully the fuck so, because you have also people waiting on the sideline, they're too scared of the shenanigans. They wait for the launch, expecting a dump, but maybe does a little bit of a retrace. And then if that shit starts to become stable, they're going to come in and start to pump that shit. And how they're going to come in? They're going to come in with not even USD in the beginning. They're going to come in with Ethereum. It's much faster because USDC, you got to worry about circle, this, that. They might do a pair. They might not do a pair. Nobody knows. But one thing's for sure is they're going to start swapping some Ethereum for that shit. So that's going to create the valuation. And then if Pulse versus Ethereum pair start to become more valuable than the Ethereum versus Hex pair on the Ethereum chart, that's going to push the price of pHEX much higher. Okay. So if example, pHEX versus ETH day one is 1,000th. One ETH may buy you 10,000 Pulse. Example. I'm just giving an example. And then literally within a week or two, it pumps like 300%. Well, guess what? Because pHEX is attached to the valuation of Pulse, and as Pulse goes higher in value, Pulse is going to drag the value of pHEX up, which is going to make that hex even more valuable. And that's where Richard has a point when he says he thinks that pHEX is going to take off. But I'm just saying, just like a T-share, just like all the beautiful chart that Wells has, it's a dragging event, right? Rope theory, reinverse, everything just drags everything up. So all we need is Pulse change to take off. If Pulse change take off, Pulse change is gonna make pHEX take off. If pHEX takes off, pHEX is gonna follow, because it just shows the value is just ratcheting it up.
I mean, it's about where the liquidity is sitting, right? That's why our liquidity being on the USDC on the Ethereum chain is so important. This is what allows us to stay decorrelated. So
exactly.
I mean, you just can't read too much into it because then you get lost in the weeds. You gotta just keep the shit simple. You know what I'm saying? Don't turn this into rocket science. It's not calculus. It's gonna start at zero, but of course, it's not gonna stay there. So you just have to be ready, man.